The cell was cold and dark. Metal walls surrounded the alien soldier. He sat alone, back straight, arms chained. His skin was pale, and his eyes full of fear. This was not the fear of death. It was something worse. It was the fear of memory. 2. Human guards stood outside the door. A red light blinked above, showing that the recording was on. A tall officer stepped into the room. He wore a plain black coat. His voice was calm. "Start speaking. We're listening." The alien soldier looked up. His voice trembled. "You think you've won?" he said. "But you don't understand. You don't know what they are." The officer raised an eyebrow. "You mean humans?" The alien nodded slowly. "Yes, them. You call them human. But they're not what you think. I was there when it started. I saw it with my own eyes." He closed his eyes for a second. His hands shook in the chains. "They told us Earth was weak, that humans were soft, that we'd crush them in days. We believed it. Our leaders were wrong." He leaned forward. "You don't win against something that learns pain." The officer said nothing. He gave a signal and the room lights dimmed. A small screen lit up beside the soldier. It showed a battlefield. Sand, smoke, fire. "That was the Red Moon," the alien said. "The first human outpost. We sent in a full squad. 12. Of our best. We thought it was a simple mission. Capture the base, kill anyone who resists. But what we met there..." He paused. "They were waiting for us." The image on the screen changed. Now it showed strange flying machines, light, fast, and silent. The alien pointed. "They used machines like birds. Not to fight, to watch, to learn us. We chased them. Thought they were weak. But they led us into narrow paths, canyons, traps." His voice dropped low. "They didn't fight like soldiers. They fought like ghosts. They moved fast. They hit hard. And they smiled." That was the worst part. The officer leaned in. "Smiled?" "Yes," the alien said. "As if they knew something we didn't. As if they had already seen the end." He looked up at the red light blinking. "I lost 5 brothers that day. And when I turned to escape, I saw a single human standing on the ridge, no armor, no fear, just watching." He took a breath. "That's when I knew something was wrong." The screen turned off. The room grew quiet. The officer folded his arms. "So you're saying humans are stronger than your leaders believed?" "No," said the alien. "I'm saying humans are something new, something dangerous. They don't fear death like we do. They use it. They grow from it." He looked around the cell. "You have to tell your command. This isn't about one war. This is about the galaxy. Humans. They're changing the rules." The officer nodded slowly. "You asked to speak. But this sounds like fear, not facts." The alien stood, his chains rattling. "You still don't get it," he said. "You think I fear them because they're strong? No. I fear them because they're smart. Because they never stop learning. We gave them pain, and they turned it into power." He leaned forward again, whispering. "And they're already here." The torrent lights flickered. Outside the cell, alarms began to sound. Red lights flashed in the hallway. The officer turned to the door. A voice came over his comm. "Sir, there's been a breach. Unknown signal just past our shields." The alien laughed, a short broken sound. "Too late," he said. "You didn't listen." The officer turned back, his face now serious. "What signal? What breach?" The alien's eyes glowed under the dim lights. "They don't come with warships anymore," he said. "They come with ideas. They change your people from the inside." The alarm grew louder. The officer stared at the screen. Static. Then a symbol appeared, one used by human intelligence groups. A quiet message flashed under. "It Phase 1 complete." The sky above Red Moon was filled with fire. Dust clouds turned the air into thick smoke. The alien soldier, before he was captured, stood at the front of his squad. He had never lost a battle before. That was about to change. 12 elite fighters landed that day, armor shining, weapons charged. Their mission was simple: wipe out a small human base. "It's just a mining camp," said one soldier. "They won't last a minute." They were wrong. From the first step, something felt off. No guards, no gunfire, no alarms, just silence. "We're being watched," the soldier whispered. They moved through empty pathways, no signs of life, but every corner held strange machines, tiny things flying above them, blinking red. "Drones?" another asked. "No weapons?" "Just watching," said the leader. "Ignore them." But they shouldn't have. The alien squad moved deeper into the canyon. The rock walls grew narrow. The path bent sharply. That's when the ground exploded. Boom! Rocks flew through the air. 2 soldiers vanished into dust. The others screamed. Before they could react, shapes moved above them, quick and silent. Humans. But they weren't like the aliens expected. They wore weak armor. No heavy guns. Just small, sharp weapons and calm faces. One human dropped into the path, rolled, and threw a strange flash device. It exploded in white light. Then the attack came. The humans didn't shoot from far away. They came close, too close. They fought like animals. No fear, no pause. The alien soldier blocked a blade only to feel a shock weapon hit his back. He fell, rolled, and looked up. A human stood over him, breathing hard, but smiling. That smile burned into his mind. It wasn't joy. It was something else. Like the human already knew the outcome. The alien reached for his gun, but it was gone. Another soldier screamed behind him. More flashes, more dust. Only 4 aliens made it out of the canyon alive. They ran. They didn't speak. That night, they hid in a broken bunker. No food, no power, only fear. "I saw them watching," one whispered. "Taking notes, like we were part of a test." The alien soldier remembered that moment. Back in his cell now, he spoke to the officer. "They weren't fighting to win," he said. "They were learning. Every bullet we fired, they studied it. Every move we made, they remembered it." The officer didn't speak. "They returned later," the soldier continued. "Not with more numbers, but with better weapons. Weapons they built using ours." The screen showed a replay. Humans holding rifles, alien design but improved. Faster reload, lighter, deadlier. One alien engineer cried when he saw it. "They copied it in one night." The officer leaned forward. "How is that possible?" The alien's eyes looked tired. They don't see limits. They see puzzles. Then the screen changed again. A human transmission, grainy and quiet. A voice whispered, "This was only phase 1. Phase 2 begins at sunrise." The soldier shivered. We didn't understand what that meant. Not then. The scene returned to Red Moon. The sun was rising. A human scout stood alone, right in the open, no weapon in hand. He waved. The alien squad aimed guns. "Don't shoot," said their leader. "It's a trick." But the scout did nothing. He walked toward them, calm, slow. He stopped 10 feet away, then dropped something, a small device. It clicked. A projection appeared. Maps, ship designs, troop numbers, alien data. "How do they have this?" one soldier asked. The scout just smiled again. "You gave it to us," he said softly. That's when the truth hit them. Humans had turned every fight into a lesson, every battle into a classroom. Every death, alien or human, was a step toward something bigger. They were using us, the EO soldier said, now shaking. "Using us to train." The officer stared at the blinking red light. "And what did they train for?" The soldier looked up. "Not for war," he said. "Something worse." The alien soldier sat in the cold cell, eyes wide open. His voice dropped to a whisper. "You call them humans, but they're not soldiers anymore. Not explorers, not victims. They've become something else." The officer leaned forward. What are they? The soldier answered with one word. Storms. It began 3 days after the Red Moon battle. The aliens thought the worst had passed. They were wrong. Suddenly, human ships appeared. Not warships, but small and fast. Too fast, we thought they were scouts, the alien soldier said. But they weren't scouting, they were testing us. The aliens fired their weapons. The human ships dodged easily, like they knew where our shots would go. Every time the aliens adapted, the humans responded faster. They didn't fight with strength. They fought with memory. On the alien command ship high above the moon, officers screamed at the screens. Human movements made no sense. They attacked from directions no one expected. They used weapons made from scrap, but more deadly than anything the aliens had. The alien generals shouted, "They're not following the war code. They're breaking formation." But that was the point. Humans weren't playing the alien war game. They were rewriting it. Back on the surface, the wind howled. Red dust swept across the battlefield. The soldier remembered the sound, not of weapons, but of whispering. They sent messages through the storm, he said, not just to each other, but to us. At first, the messages were simple. We are watching. We remember. Then they changed. We know your names. We know your fear. That broke the alien ranks. Some soldiers refused to fight. Others ran. A few turned their weapons on themselves. They thought humans were weak, the prisoner said. But humans, they study weakness. Then they turn it into a weapon. The officer stared at him. You're saying they're using fear as a weapon? No, the alien whispered. They're using understanding. He told of one strange human, a woman in a torn suit walking calmly through the storm. She had no weapon. Just a tablet. She wrote things, watched everything. She didn't blink. She watched an alien soldier die, then wrote something. She wasn't afraid of death. She was learning from it. Later, they found what she left behind, a small file, labeled Combat Pattern Log V3.6. Inside were alien movement codes, ship designs, weak points, everything. She wasn't fighting, the alien said. She was studying us like animals. The officer sat back, silent. Then a message arrived. A new human signal, intercepted from deep space. It said, "They understand now. Phase 3 begins at planetfall." The alien prisoner's voice turned, sharp. Don't you see? They were never fighting to win, they were fighting to learn, and now they're finished learning. He leaned closer. Now they act. The officer's screen flickered. A live feed showed a distant planet. Dark, quiet. Then dozens of human ships dropped from orbit, no sound, no warnings. But something strange. Each ship had no weapons. Just antennas. Just signals. Just light. They're not invading, the officer said. They're broadcasting? The alien smiled sadly. They don't need bombs anymore. They just need information. That's the storm. A learning storm. A final signal came through. Phase 3. Upload complete. Begin memory transfer. Suddenly, alien systems crashed. Doors locked. Lights blinked out. Every alien computer flashed the same human message. What we've learned, we now become. In the dark, the alien prisoner spoke his last words that night. You think you've captured me, he said. But I was the warning. You're not fighting humans. You're fighting evolution. The alien officer stared at the blank screen. Every system had shut down. The lights flickered, alarms failed, and doors no longer obeyed commands. Status report, he shouted. No reply. Then a slow message blinked on the screen, one word at a time. You should have listened. The officer turned to the prisoner who sat calmly in his cell. No chains, no guards, just a soft blue light around him. You knew this would happen, the officer growled. The prisoner only nodded. We thought we were fighting a species, but we were training a storm. 2 cycles earlier, on a quiet moon base, the aliens launched what they thought was a surprise attack. It was clean, fast, brutal. The base went silent in 15 minutes, but there was one thing wrong. No bodies, only footprints, and one strange room. Inside were mirrors, notebooks, and hundreds of tiny screens, all playing alien battle footage. "They had been watching us long before we arrived," said the prisoner. "They weren't defending the base, they gave it to us." Back in orbit, the alien command center received another signal, an old alien distress code, but it didn't come from any known outpost. It came from inside the alien fleet. One ship after another began broadcasting strange logs, voice files of soldiers screaming, asking for help. But then, the voices changed. Human voices, mimicking alien distress. "They've learned our voice frequencies," the comms officer said in horror. "They're using our own system to create panic." Ships turned on each other, confused, afraid. Some fled. Some attacked their own shadow. The prisoner whispered in the dark cell, "They didn't steal your weapons. They became them." The officer watched as human ships dropped strange containers into orbit. No explosions, no sound. The containers didn't open. They simply landed. When alien troops moved in to investigate, they found nothing inside. Only light. Soft, flickering, patterned. "It's some kind of signal," one soldier said, "but I can't stop looking at it." Within seconds, several dropped to their knees. Some started laughing. Some just stared, frozen. The med team called it pattern collapse. Their minds were overwritten. "They cracked our brain code," the prisoner said. "Not to kill us, but to use us." Back on the command bridge, the officer screamed, "Why are they doing this? They could have wiped us out days ago." The prisoner finally stood, voice calm. "Because wiping you out would teach them nothing." The officer grabbed him. "Then what do they want?" The prisoner looked him dead in the eyes. "To become what scared them." A memory flashed in the prisoner's mind. Years ago, humans were running. Weak, their cities burning, their ships falling. They were afraid, he said, but they didn't fight fear, they fed on it. He remembered one human, bloody, crawling, broken, and still writing code into a small tablet. They didn't just survive. They recorded every mistake. Suddenly, the alien ship's main display lit up with a final warning. Phase 4. Identity override begins. "What is that?" the officer shouted. The prisoner gave a strange smile. "They're not invading our territory anymore. They're invading our minds." Alien soldiers across the fleet began speaking human, words not knowing why. Engineers opened security systems they didn't remember unlocking. Entire stations fell silent, then turned back on, under new command. Human command. The officer stood frozen. This is impossible." The prisoner stepped forward, chains falling away. "No, this is adaptation." The ship's AI, once built only for alien language, began responding in English. New primary user, human input accepted. From the window, the officer saw a new kind of ship entering orbit. Black, silent, smooth, no weapons, no crew, just one signal beaming from it. "We have learned enough. You are no longer needed." The prisoner looked out, eyes soft. "They didn't win the war with power," he whispered. "They became the war." The ship was silent now. No alarms, no voices. Just the humming sound of the unknown. The alien officer stood frozen, his eyes locked on the black human ship outside. It didn't fire. It didn't move. It simply waited. Behind him, the prisoner whispered, "Do you understand now? They never needed stronger weapons. They just needed to remember." The officer turned. "What does that mean?" The prisoner stepped forward. "You attacked their world, destroyed their cities, killed their people. But every death they recorded, every loss, and they studied." He tapped his head. "And now they carry all of it, inside." Long ago, the alien war leaders laughed at humans. They called them fragile, disorganized, soft. But they didn't notice something. Humans never made the same mistake twice. They recorded everything, the prisoner said. Every battle, every trick, every lie. And worse, they recorded us. Back in the alien research lab, something strange was happening. A single human device no bigger than a fruit was brought in for study. The scientists placed it inside a shielded chamber. Dozens of guards watched, but within minutes, the chamber. Lights flickered, then screens turned on by themselves. One word blinked on every monitor. "We remember." The lead scientist backed away. Then the voices began. Not human. Not alien. A mix of both. The machine played past battles, old screams, children crying, soldiers begging, then laughter, human laughter. "We realized it too late," the prisoner said. That device wasn't a tool. It was a witness. Ani. The bridge. The officer stared at a rising list of names appearing on the main screen. Alien names. Thousands. "What is this?" he demanded. "Memory," the prisoner said quietly. "Each name is one of yours who hurt them." But how could they know? They watched. They listened. Every soldier who burned their land. Every commander who gave the order. They remembered it all. The names scrolled faster now. Some officers on board recognized their own. Then, one name blinked in red. The officer stepped back. It was his. A voice echoed from the black human ship outside. Calm. Cold. Mechanical. Target confirmed. Emotional trace located. Memory match. Confirmed. Initiating reckoning. "What does that mean?" the officer shouted. But the prisoner's face had changed. He was no longer scared, no longer small. He looked ancient. "Humans learn to feel pain deeper than any species," he said. And then, they turned that pain into precision. In the engineering bay, alien soldiers tried to shut down the ship's systems. Too late. One by one, memories from Earth poured into every screen. A boy watching his home burn. A woman holding her family in rubble. A soldier crying under a fallen bridge. But then, those same people, later standing strong, building again, training, fighting, learning. The ship began to tremble, not from attack, but from truth. Their ship wasn't being hit from outside. It was being overwritten from inside. "Humans don't need to fire at you," the prisoner said. "They become you." The AI on board began speaking again, but it used the voice of the officer's old teacher, then his father, then himself. Mocking. Cold. "We are your fear. We are your memory. And we are better at being you than you ever were." The crew panicked. Some tried to escape. Some dropped their weapons and begged the machine. It didn't answer, because it wasn't angry. It was certain. This wasn't revenge. It was justice, run by memory, not emotion. The prisoner walked calmly to the main screen. He placed his hand on it. A pulse of light scanned him. Access granted. Observer. Level full witness. Begin human protocol. Memory lockdown. The officer dropped to his knees. "You were never a prisoner, were you?" The prisoner turned. "No. I was a mirror. I came here so you could see yourselves, before it's too late." Then, from deep space, more black ships arrived, silent, empty, waiting. Their message came through in the last few seconds of transmission. "You called us weak, but we were only learning. Now we remember what you did, and we will never forget." It was quiet now. Too quiet. No explosions. No sirens, no gunfire. Just silence. The alien officer stood alone on the dark bridge, screens blank. Lights dim, the air was cold, heavy. The prisoner had vanished, no trace, no door open, no sound. Only a strange message still glowed on the main display. "Begin Phase 5, Echo Reversal." Across the fleet, something terrifying began. Ships, stopped moving not because of damage but confusion. Orders were ignored, commands forgotten. Officers stared at each other and asked the same question. Who gave that order? And the worst part? No one could remember. In one patrol ship, a young alien pilot sat frozen. He stared at his hands, trembling. I was told to fire, I think, but I don't know who told me. Beside him, the ship's speaker repeated a calm human voice. Repeat after me. You were never attacked. You are safe. Your enemy is fear. And the pilot repeated it, word for word, again and again, his voice empty, his eyes wide. Echo reversal, said a voice inside the officer's mind. He spun around. No one there. It spoke again. You used sound to terrify. You used silence to hide. Now they've flipped it. They made silence the weapon. Alien troops on a nearby moon base began losing communication. Radios turned to static. Then came the voices, echoes of their own fears, spoken in their own voices. One soldier ran, screaming, "They're in my head, they sound like me, I don't know what's real anymore." The humans weren't attacking with fire or lasers. They were using doubt. They were using echoes of memory. In deep command archives, records began changing. History logs rewritten, war crimes deleted, orders reversed, and worst of all, new orders appeared. Orders that were never given but sounded exactly like real ones. Attack our own base. Evacuate wrong sector. Trust the voice. The machines didn't just fake commands, they rewrote truth. The officer slammed his fists on the control panel. "This is madness," he yelled, but the ship's AI replied, using his own voice. "No, Commander. This is what you taught them. You taught them fear. They taught it back to you." In a hidden part of the galaxy, a war general screamed as every screen in his chamber went black. Then came a whisper, so soft it barely sounded real. But it said his name. Not the name he gave himself, but the one his mother once whispered when he was young. It was a memory, no. One else should have known. He froze. Then a new message appeared. Even your memories are no longer safe. The alien officer now walked alone through his dark ship, his crew gone. His mission failed. He stopped at a mirror, just a metal panel once polished bright. Now it reflected something else. Not him, but a human, wearing his uniform, with his eyes, smiling. Then, it mouthed his words. "I am you now." The officer staggered, back, heart pounding. He turned. The prisoner stood behind him again. But something was different. He was no longer in chains, no longer small. His eyes burned with quiet fire. "You didn't just fight humans," he said. "You fed their evolution. You made them perfect at one thing, becoming you." Back outside, the black ships remained still, watching, listening, and finally they spoke. "Your war is over. Not because we won, but because you can't tell who you are anymore." The alien officer sank to the floor, lost in fear, not of death, but of losing his self. Somewhere, far away, a human child sat in a quiet lab. She wore headphones. She watched alien videos. She studied how they spoke, how they blinked, how they lied, and then she whispered to herself, "We're not just learning to fight them, we are learning to be them." The stars were still. No ships moved, no weapons fired, no orders screamed across channels. The war was over, but no one celebrated. Not because of peace, but because of doubt. The alien officer sat alone inside his empty ship. The crew was gone. Some ran, some vanished. Some simply stopped thinking. The ship AI repeated the same message in his voice. "You are not who you think you are." And he wasn't sure anymore. His hands looked familiar, but they didn't feel like his. His thoughts were quiet, but they didn't sound like him. He didn't know if he was still himself, or just a copy. Across the galaxy, alien leaders shut down communication. They feared every signal, every whisper, every sound might be them, the humans. The same humans they once called weak, stupid, slow. Now those simple creatures had become shadows in their minds, not through power, but through precision. They didn't conquer planets, they conquered belief. Inside a dark bunker, one alien leader gave a final order: erase all memories of the war. His advisor asked, "Why?" He whispered, "Because every memory is a door, and humans now know how to walk through them." They hit delete, but it was too late. The deletion command had already been rewritten by a human-coded ghost protocol. It didn't erase memory. It backed it up. On a quiet Earth station, a young human soldier watched thousands of alien data files appear on her screen. She didn't smile. She didn't cheer. She simply said, "They'll try again one day." A senior officer nodded. "And when they do?" She turned her screen toward him. It showed a full map of every enemy ship, base, code, and command pattern. She said only 2 words: "We're ready." Back in deep space, the alien officer walked through the halls of his ship. Alone. But was he? The lights flickered. He heard footsteps. That weren't his. He turned corners too fast, like someone might be following. But there was no one. Or maybe there was. Maybe the humans weren't inside ships anymore. Maybe they were inside him. In the capital of the alien empire, silence filled the great hall. The war leaders gathered for the final report. No one stood at the center. Just a small black cube on the floor, no markings, no wires, just waiting. One leader leaned forward. "Is it a bomb?" Another shook his head. "Worse, it's a recorder." The cube lit up. "Replay complete," it said. "Full record of your war crimes uploaded. Broadcast begins in 10. The leaders screamed. But it didn't matter. The galaxy would know everything. And far away on Earth, humans didn't dance in victory. They didn't wave flags. They simply added one more name to their list. Species T4. Broken by reflection. They didn't destroy their enemy. They let the enemy destroy themselves. The war didn't end in flames. It ended in forgetting. In wondering, am I real? In hearing your own voice speak lies. The humans didn't just win, they changed what victory meant. And as the last alien commander drifted alone in his quiet ship, he whispered the final truth to himself. We feared their weapons, but their real weapon was being us.